Welcome to this training video on the InterAcct standard system, getting ready to go live. At some point between your first date of installation and when you go live, you're going to get some training on how to set up a lot of different things within the InterAcct system. But just before you're getting ready to go live, sometimes even a couple of weeks before your actual go live date, you can start getting things ready in the system to go live already. We would expect that you'd have your customers, suppliers, staff, products, payroll, all this information set up in the system as soon as you start your training process. But some information is going to need to be waiting until a closer date to when you're going to go live to be able to put it in. So under the accounts payable area, we've got a menu link here to opening balances. Underneath here, you can see that I've already keyed in some opening balances for creditors, but I'm going to add in a new opening balance now. I'm going to hit F2 or plus, pick the date that the supplier's invoice had arrived to me, pick which supplier, enter in their invoice number, how much money we're still going to owe them when we go live, whether we've already partly paid that, when we expect to pay it, and a narration. So keying that data in is going to increase my supplier's creditors ledger and creditors history file to say that we're going to owe them $5,000, and we can see that if we view the supplier file underneath here under creditors ledger. We can see that $5,000 sitting there as outstanding. Once we've keyed in all of our supplier invoices, we also need to make sure that we've got a general ledger journal that matches the same total. So if we're looking here at the list of supplier invoices that were had balances at the date that we went live, we can see that creditors in the general ledger opening balance should be $467,446. Obviously, if we ran a balance sheet from our existing software application, we'd get a value from that other application as to what creditors should be. The two should match, and obviously we can reconcile that data. It's a very similar process for coming into accounts receivable, debtors setup, if you've got the new menus set up, and then opening balances. Except underneath here, it lists all of our customers. So I can see here a customer called Wollongong City Council. It then asks me to key in their invoice number. The only real difference here for keying in opening balances to the creditors screen is that the invoice number needs to be between 100,000 and 999,000. I can key in the date that the invoice was raised for, how much the invoice was, whether we've had any payments. If we're running the job costing module, we can tie it back to a project. So if that project has a contract on it, the contract has only partly been billed at the stage, we can tie this invoice back to that contract, whether it's paid or unpaid, so that we can see that coming off the contract sum. Okay, so we've got customers and suppliers outstanding invoices in there. Obviously, if we raised an invoice a week before we were going to go live to a customer, the chances are we're probably not going to see payment beforehand. So this information could be keyed in weeks ahead of when you're going to be going live. If a mistake had been made and someone actually did pay the invoice very quickly, we could always come back and change that data should we need to. The same sort of thing with the suppliers. We know which suppliers we're going to have paid beforehand, so we could get that data in there before going live, so that on the day that we go live, there's one less thing to have to get done by the accounts department. So we've talked there about jobs and opening balances for them. Under the jobs menu, under work in progress opening balances here, number 21 and 22, we can key in details of what our work in progress balances are for jobs. The simple version is still quite detailed. It allows us to pick a job, pick a section to the job, pick a type of cost, a cost item, and put in a total value of job to date costs. That's then gone against that job and put it in against the original cost estimate to say that this is what our costs to date are on that particular job. Now if you wanted to, you can obviously cut some corners there and bundle all the costs together and put them in as sundries, but if you're wanting to see detailed information, you would need to key it in this way. The detailed version actually comes down to individual cost transactions. So once again, we pick the job, we then pick the date of the transaction, the section of the job it relates to, the cost group, the cost item, the quantities, and the rates. Now that's great if we've got a lot of information coming from another package. We could import that into this screen and have that update our job if we needed to. So what other things need to be set up before we go live? Well, under the accounting menu, underneath the setup area, we've got an area here for opening balances. Now that links us back through to the other opening balance screens that we talked about. But under starting reference numbers, we can choose what our next job number is going to be, quote number, sales order invoice, purchase order numbers, works orders, etc. Now, we can set those numbers to whatever number we like. Normally they're a number between, once again, 100,000 and 999,000. So if your existing invoice number is 1586, you might start your invoice numbers off instead at 101586. Same with job numbers or purchase orders and things like that. Once those figures have been set up in there, the system will automatically then generate new invoice numbers, job numbers, purchase order numbers to go forward from that point. So under the General Ledger menu, we obviously need to do a General Ledger journal as an opening balance. We put in the date that that's going to be, and that it's an opening balance, and then it's just a matter of keying in the General Ledger accounts and whether or not the amount is a debit or a credit. So in this case, a debit entry. The only thing you need to make sure of when doing your General Ledger journals is to make sure that the debits do equal the credits, otherwise you won't be able to run your financial reports. If you have any other questions about opening balances or getting ready to go live, please contact support@interact.com.au.